talking a lot about a collaborative effort, an alignment of different efforts that are being made across the spectrum. So we wanted to hear from the aviation industry about its Destination 2050 project. There was an open letter to the Commission last year, and the other EU institutions. There has been a relatively new report. Many of you will be familiar with it. So let's talk about that and then talk about ATM within that context and how it all hopefully fits together seamlessly. Olivier, in terms of Destination 2050, why was it launched? And why did your organisation sign up to it?
Thank you, Jackie. Good morning to everybody, and thanks to SESAR JU, Andreas and the team to have us here with you. Well, it was really important for us to do Destination 2050 because beyond committing to net zero, we simply needed to show that we have a plan to get there. And this is what Destination 2050 does, based on 4 pillars. It's scientifically driven. It was done by NNR and CO. So I do consider it's quite a serious piece of work, and it charts the direction where we need to go. I think the beauty of us is that it made us all work together, the industry, as one team, focus on the same objectives, and it's also a very good tool to engage policymakers on the kind of support we need to make the vision, the plan, the roadmap of Destination 2050 a reality. Why we specifically as ACI Europe did that? Well, I think as airports, we've been working on reducing our carbon emissions since 2009 through a program we set up, which is called Airport Carbon Accreditation. That program is very much initially focused on Scope 1 and 2 emissions for the airport, so those emissions that an airport operator directly controls. But it has evolved, and increasingly it is looking at addressing Scope 3 emissions. And we have now more than 300 airports that are certified under this program in Europe. So for us, you know, the Scope 3 dimension, it's obviously something we don't control, and it's something we need to work with the airlines, with the air navigation service providers, with the AOMs. And so it was pure logic to go down that route and work with them for this on Destination 2050.
Thank you. Ourania, from your perspective, and why it was important for the airlines to be part of this initiative?
For the same reasons, I would say, because fundamentally we're all in this together. We're married. If for the lack of a better example, I'm sure many of you can relate. It's not always easy, we don't always get along, but fundamentally we need to do this together, we need to work together, and we each depend on each other in different ways. So as an airline, there's only so much I can control about how I fly, where I fly, and who I work with. After a while, I rely on everybody around me to give me the fuel, to give me the planes, to give me the right ATM technology. All of that goes together to deliver net zero. So that's why airlines joined this plan, and I think it's essential, especially in these days when life is already complicated and there's so many externalities and we're all feeling a bit confused, that the industry can come together with one voice and ask for exactly the same thing, all of us, across the ecosystem.
And that same thing you asked for, 2 key elements to it. The first, a call for a dedicated industrial strategy to help the sector achieve net zero. The second, and you talked about a good tool for engaging with policymakers, a dialogue, a permanent dialogue. Let's talk about the first, and in terms of that industrial strategy, what, and this time, Ourania, maybe come to you first, in terms of what you would highlight as the most important ingredients of that strategy. And going back to a conversation we had in our first panel, where some people were saying, somebody said ATM is the low-hanging fruit, others said sustainable aviation fuels, a lot of different elements to come together. But how do you, within the context of your industrial strategy, see the role of ATM and its importance?
I think Destination 2050 demonstrates that there's no silver bullet. The review repeated that. Again, we published it a couple of weeks ago. It's the same recipe of 4 pillars, okay? So you need the SAF, you need the ATM, you need the aircraft, you need the economic measures. And it's the combination of all these things that will get us to net zero by 2050. And that means that we should not start prioritizing, let's do a bit of SAF only, and let's only do the production of SAF. Let's not do the allowances. Or let's just do aircraft technology, and let's not do ATM. Do you imagine I buy an amazing aircraft, I stick in super expensive SAF, and airspace is still not modernized, and I'm still burning fuel and money for no reason. So those 4 things go together, and in the Destination 2050 roadmap and the review we published a couple of weeks ago, we again repeat that we need to promote the digitalization, the modernization of airspace. Draghi said it himself last year as well. He said, come on, you have to reap the benefits of digitalization as Europe, and within the context of single European skies, SESAR is really the pillar to deliver on that new technology. So the review repeats that we need to be making that investment, because that investment, paired with every other investment and effort, will bring net zero.
And you mentioned Mario Draghi's report on competitiveness, and of course, huge emphasis as we begin this new EU legislative cycle. MEP Urchin was talking earlier about we're really only getting started, but it is competitiveness, competitiveness, competitiveness. Olivier, from your perspective, the most important ingredients for that strategy you're calling for, and how you see the role of ATM, and then I'd like to really drill down into the competitiveness issue.
Well, I would just echo what Ourania says. I think, we need the 4 pillars to be the priority in that strategy. We can't really prioritize between the different elements, because we will need all of them to deliver by 2050 net zero. Having said that, of course, and again, I repeat what I heard this morning, ATM is the low-hanging fruit. It's not based on rocket science, it's based on technology that is being developed, that is reaching maturity, that is ready for deployment. So in that sense, it should be the easiest part in terms of delivering CO2 reductions.
And in terms of the Draghi report, and he had a number of recommendations, he talked about the importance of better ATM, improving efficiency through digitalization. We've had the competitiveness compass. Andreas mentioned it at the beginning today. And the Polish minister said more efficient and reliable ATM is a key to the competitiveness of the aviation sector, a key. In terms of the Draghi report, Olivier, and the recommendations, what would you highlight as most important? And why is this issue, we focused more in the last panel on why this issue matters for sustainability. Why does it matter so much for competitiveness?
Well, I think the beauty of the Draghi report is the fact that it really put transport back on the radar screen in terms of the role it has for the competitiveness of Europe, how transport enables and trickles down throughout the economy in terms of enabling other sectors to develop and to create jobs. And I think that's particularly true for aviation. I mean, we know that for every 10% increase in air connectivity, there is automatically a 0.5% increase in GDP per capita and 1.6% increase in local jobs being created. So, aviation is a job machine, air connectivity is a job machine, and it's crucial to the global positioning of Europe, and Draghi made that very clear. I think another very important message of the Draghi report, which maybe has been a bit overlooked, is the fact that the Draghi report is very clear about the fact that as global passenger demand will keep increasing, we need in Europe to be able to develop airport capacity to address the bottlenecks and to unlock further growth. And that's in a way a rebuttal to some of the policies that we see being taken in Europe by some states who want to limit or curb airport capacity.
Indeed.
That's very important.
So, Ourania, for economic growth, for competitiveness, we need mobility. So it's not a case, and we had some questions earlier about, where the focus should be. For you, what would you highlight most from the Draghi report? And indeed, what has been taken up by the Commission in its competitiveness compass?
I would completely align with what Olivier has just said, that Draghi reminded us that transport is a public good. As a Greek, I will remind you that flying is the only way to get here efficiently. It's the only way to get to centers of wealth and to centers of power and decision-making for many parts of Europe. So it is what keeps Europe connected, first of all, to each other and then to the world. If you want to be competitive as a European economy, you need to go to do business, hopefully in the US again, India, other parts of the world. So you need to get there in an efficient way. And the effort we have here is about keeping that sector, European aviation, competitive. I work for European Airlines, and I see a big impact in terms of what this managing transition to net zero does on the economies of my members. So it is a very expensive exercise to transition to net zero, and the Destination 2050 review that we launched a couple of weeks ago shows that the premium cost has increased. We're now at 1.3 trillion euros for just the premium on top of the business as usual. That's 12 zeros. I had to Google that. It's funny money for a Greek person, you know what I mean? How many zeros can you put? And that's why what Draghi reminds us is that you need to invest now. You can't wait for that to happen. You start, every little euro counts, because that means you're saving the CO2 emissions, you are making the investment that will deliver the benefits every year cumulatively up to 2050. And I think that's the most important message from Draghi, that you don't wait to be in trouble. You need, we have a patient, the patient is sick, here's the medicine, you start taking your prescription today and not in 10 years' time.
You also call in the report, Ourania, for a structured dialogue between the Commission, Member States and the aviation industry. Why do you believe this is needed? You say it's needed to accelerate efforts. We're talking about acceleration all the time in decarbonisation. Why is it so important, and what do you want to talk about in that high-level dialogue?
It's because we're all in this together. I mean, the amount of money is stupid, as I think I've just demonstrated. So it doesn't exist just in the pockets of an airport or of an airline or of a passenger. It does not exist in a single member state. It is absolutely a European project. We are talking ATM is absolutely European airspace and a European investment. Why would you do it at a small local scale when you can do it across Europe and then make a product for the world? So we need the member states to put the political impetus and the Commission to work across different DGs, the industry, as we do already within the SESAR joint undertaking, working together to agree on the priorities, but also being smart about how we're going to finance that, how we're going to make the best of the little finances and tools we have at our disposal in order to make this happen.
And that sort of collaborative effort, very much also part of the SESAR DNA, as we heard, that spirit of cooperation, but also the master plan developed in extensive consultation with all the stakeholders who need to be involved. How do you see, you call and you stress the importance, and I'm quoting, of a fully aligned, effective collaborative effort between all stakeholders to achieve net zero. Olivier, how do you see the links between Destination 2050 and the SESAR, the new SESAR master plan?
Well, I think the link is pretty obvious. I mean, the master plan is about decarbonization and digitalization, so obviously that links into the Destination 2050 report. I think that the master plan is really the planning tool on how we're going to make ATM more green and deliver the CO2 reduction. So for us, it's actually an integral part of the Destination 2050 report, if I may say.
And is fully aligned the objectives of the two of the?
Yeah, yes, I think quite. I think that link is even stronger now because we now have a master plan that is really focused on deployment.
Yeah.
So into making it happen. And this is where it becomes really more interesting and crucial for us to follow the master plan and to be part of it.
Ourania, add to that if you wish to, but I also want to ask, in light of the new master plan, what do you, as airlines, as airports, expect from ATM innovation? And are you ready? We've talked a lot about deployment. Are you ready? There was a question from our audience in the last session about business cases. We talked about the incentives for investment. If they develop the solutions, they already have developed, I'm now supposed to say nearly 140, not over 130, nearly 140 solutions and more in the pipeline. If they develop them, are you ready to take them up? What is the challenge there?
I feel like you're going to redo the very interesting discussion in the previous panel, which I dare not do because I was intrigued to listen to those different perspectives. I think we spend a lot of time looking at each other thinking who will go first. And in fact, we just have to hold hands and move forward together. And maybe we won't agree on all the priorities. Maybe what I need in one airline is not the same as what someone else needs in an airline or across airports. We have to accept that as well. We're not going to agree on everything all the time. But yes, I think airlines are prepared to do better because, let's be honest, when things go wrong, we're the first one to get the blame. Everybody's upset with an airline. They often don't know a lot about what happens behind the scenes, especially in the funky world of ATM. So it is important to us to bring people on time to where they want to be and to pick them up on time. It's important for everybody to do the savings in terms of carbon emissions, but cost as well. So there is an incentive inbuilt into the system, and especially with the rising cost of the decarbonization roadmap, that incentive, that business incentive is even more so there. So I would echo what Dorothea was saying earlier, that I don't come from this industry. I have the privilege of being here for almost 2 years now, and because it's such a safety-focused industry, it tends to be slow, I agree. And at some point, there is a bit faster, I think, in what we can do, and it's about deciding, you know, let's all hold hands together and just do that extra little leap of faith and go a little bit quicker.
Olivier, same question to you in terms of what you expect from ATM innovation and whether your members are really ready to take it up and implement.
Well, for us, it's really important because it really fits with one of our key strategic objectives, which is how can we better integrate ATM into our port operations and vice versa. And for us, that's really important because first, it allows us to squeeze more our assets, so to maximize the use of limited capacity we have. And, you know, as airports, it's very costly to develop new capacity, and it's not only very costly, but it's politically very difficult. So that becomes really, really crucial for us, you know, maximizing the use of the capacity we have. The second thing is improving the passenger experience, because through that, you know, we will manage disruption better, reduce delays, and that whole plays out in terms of better service to the passenger, and of course you have decarbonization. So there's no doubt we are committed to deployment. Having said that, I think it's very important for us as airports to realize that there cannot be a one-size-fits-all approach. Because you cannot expect the solutions to be developed across the board to all airports. Why? Because I come back to the business case. If I'm an airport and I'm asked to invest in something, there must be a local business case for me as an airport. And it's clear that not all SESAR solutions give that local business case to the airport. So I think we need to be smart and able to differentiate, you know, the different realities in terms of the business case for the network performance, but the business case for the airport as well. And this is where, you know, if you want to really push things beyond the local airport business case, there must be public financing, there must be EU financing. Otherwise, airports won't do it.
Issues we'll come back to, I hope, later on when we talk about the conditions for a successful rollout. A very final, very quick question to you before we close. Accepting what you said, no silver bullet, all 4 pillars matter, I won't pick a priority. I'm not going to ask you to pick a priority, but going back to that quote from Mahatma Gandhi, the Commissioner's quote about the future depends on what we do today, a key next step, if we are to realise those synergised goals between Destination 2050 and the new master plan, what for you is the key next step to make sure that we get on track and we stay on track? Olivier, Ourania, half a minute each if you would.
Well, I'm coming back to this idea of an aviation strategy at EU level. We don't really have one at the moment. You know, we were a bit disappointed that we were not in the competitiveness compass. There is a maritime strategy in the competitiveness compass. There is a very visible automotive dialogue. So we're very hopeful that at least in the clean industrial deal that is coming in a few days, there will be a recognition for the need for aviation to decarbonize, and that will be part of that.
And that will be the start. You need to put it right up there at the top of the agenda.
We need that political signal. It's very important.
Ourania.
Agreed. The Clean Industrial Deal next week, 26, is the first place to see aviation featured in there as an industrial priority for Europe and an industrial investment priority for Europe. And as soon as that signal is out there, the rest will follow.
On that note, will you join me in thanking Olivier and Ourania very much indeed for a great conversation?